and welcome back to the AWA 1990 project. I'm your host, Alex G, and with me, as always, is Matt Riley. What's going on, Matt?
I am happy to be here.
All right, fantastic. I dig that. So in this episode, we're going to continue going through our roster, doing some more fantasy booking. We're also going to take a look at AWA Battle by the Bay. This was a ESPN special that was live on June 28th, 1986. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later on in the show. But first, when it comes to our roster, as we go through the process of introducing the listeners at home to who do we have on our roster, we're going to start off talking about our Scott Norton versus Cactus Jack and Norman the Lunatic feud that we have going on, because our next wrestler will be introduced in that angle. So at this point, for a couple of weeks, Cactus and Norman have been getting the best of Scott Norton, doing some assault, whether it be backstage or in the parking lot, really kind of beating the hell out of Scott Norton. But Scott needs to bring in somebody to have his back. So Scott Norton's going to bring in, that's right, Terry Funk.
I was robbed from the World Championship by Jerry Lawler in Fargo. Because you must understand that ignorance clings together. Can't you understand that? You people in Memphis, of anybody, should be able to understand that, because you are nothing but a bunch of ignorant pigs, just like what was in the ring with me. I couldn't believe it when Lawler came to the ring with what? Was he thinking about the World Championship, or was he thinking about the night a little bit later on? Did you see that ugly broad that he brought to the ringside? I'm talking about that one with that sparrow cleavage, the one with the splinter legs, the one that looked like a dog. Where did he find her? At the Miss Tennessee contest, I'll bet. That's the kind of people that enter the Tennessee contest. But what happened? Fargo came in right behind her, and if that isn't a prime example for a cardiac arrest, I've never seen any. So you bring that old, decrepit, old piece of junk and garbage and put him into the ring with a fine athlete like myself, and what does he do? He steals the World Championship belt from me. And what does that do to professional wrestling? It puts it down the tubes. It puts it in the basement. It puts it in the cellar. It puts it in the sewer. And there's nothing worse than the Memphis sewer. And that's the Mid-South Coliseum is the Memphis sewer. But I'm coming back to the sewer to battle with the rats and the slime and the scum. And the rats and the slime and the scum are nothing more than 4 Tennessee perverts. They're going to be going in the ring against the Texas Connection, the Texas Outlaws. That's right, the Funker himself. You simple-minded people know me. I'm the best in the world. And I'm going to have Pritchard on my side, and I'm going to have Embry, and I'm going to have that devious moron. What is his name? That devious moron, that Japanese goof. How could I be better off than having a Japanese goof in my corner? We're going to be in a cage match. That's exactly right. And we are going to take care of each and every one of them. Now let me tell you something. All of you jerks, all of you idiots, all of you fools, all of you fat slobs, all of you pigs, come on down to the Coliseum, and you can oink for your group, but it's not going to go do any good. Oink for them. Oink, oink. Grunt like a pig, because you look like a pig.
So we're going to bring in Terry Funk along with Scott Norton, and there's this angle that ECW did where like Raven is getting the best of Raven and Cactus getting the best of Tommy, and they beat up Tommy, and then Tommy staggers back to the locker room, grabs a phone, and says, "Operator, put me through to the Double Cross Ranch." And that's how they end the show, which is a really sweet ending. We're
Yeah.
probably going to do something very similar to that. So what Terry Funk brings to the table is that obviously he's a big name. The year before, 1989, he had a great year feuding with Ric Flair. He's coming off that Ric Flair feud,
Yeah.
the pile driver on the table, and putting the bag over his head. And then WCW after that didn't really know what to do with him. He was doing some announcing. He had an interview segment. It was just awful. Poor Terry Funk. They should have done more with him. Unfortunately, they did not. So bringing in Terry Funk, and you got to figure with Terry, he's going to have fantastic matches with Cactus. We know this, right?
Right.
But they haven't really wrestled yet. So we get to have the first time meeting between, quote unquote, the first time meeting of Cactus Jack and Terry Funk. I think the fans will really dig that. Obviously, he can have fun matches with Norman the Lunatic. I can only imagine how those matches would go. Obviously, he's going to be teaming up with Norton to face these guys and what have you. And those matches are going to be big-time brawls. Cactus is going to bump everywhere. Terry's going to bump everywhere. There's going to be blood and guts, and it's going to be a really solid brawl. Again, Terry Funk, in 85 and 86, he was in the WWF. Obviously, he's a NWA world champion, all-time legend. Everyone should know about Terry Funk and what he can bring to the table, not only in terms of in the ring, but his mind for the business. He grew up in the business. He has an understanding of it. He's someone that could always see the future and what the future is going to be like. That's why he was able to evolve his style and stay relevant for years and years and years. And I think Terry would be a fantastic addition.
Yeah.
So, Matt, what are your thoughts on Terry Funk? What does he bring to the table?
Oh, well, he's yellow. Flawless yellow. My. Sorry, I had to say it by law. I always enjoyed Terry Funk, and I still say the angle on Flair, where how about a title shot? Like, that is the perfect, any veteran who comes out of the blue to return to the business, that's like a perfect, like, setup to have a feud. Because the heel or face, and Flair was a heel at the time, has every right. Who wouldn't be in the right? Like, well, dude, you haven't been around in like 5 years. Why would I give you a title shot?
Right.
Everyone can associate to that. It's like when someone at work gets promotion, like everyone's like, that guy's a jackass. Why did they get promoted? And I think overall he brings an intensity and unpredictability that makes him you can't not watch the guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's something as a company like AWA 1990 project, trying to establish must-watch TV. That's it. And set them up, wind them up, let them go. And you can go so many directions with them. And like you said with the ECW thing, like, you can make him a face in the right situation, so why not?
Yeah, he's very versatile. You can put him anywhere in the card. He can main event in title matches. He can be in the middle of the card. He can do comedy. He can do crazy hardcore matches. You can put him on commentary if you really need to. So Terry is very versatile. And one other note I want to bring up about Terry Funk before we move on. You know what Terry Funk was doing in 1990?
I mean, aside from WCW commentary stuff?
Yeah.
Painting buildings? I don't know.
Terry Funk was the fight coordinator for Rocky V.
Really?
So imagine a scenario where, hey, Terry, can you talk to your friends, Sylvester Stallone? Can we bring a camera crew down to the set and maybe get an interview with you, Sylvester Stallone, one of the biggest movie stars in the world, and put that on our TV?
Right.
Can we do that? Because don't forget that Terry Funk and Stallone have this relationship where, like, they're friends. Terry was in Paradise Alley. He was in Over the Top. So, and he was, obviously the coordinator for Rocky V. Stallone always has an affinity for professional wrestling. Would it be casting, Terry Funk or Jesse Ventura or Hulk Hogan in his movies?
Right.
He's always had wrestlers in his movies, as recently as putting Steve Austin in Expendables. So Stallone's always had this, this thing about wrestlers and professional wrestling, and trying to get him on our TV somehow would be a big boost. He's like a legitimate top-tier movie star, and he was someone that would give us a big boost. By the way, do you know who was one of the stuntmen for Tommy Gunn and Rocky V?
A stuntman? Like a stunt double?
Stunt double, yep.
Kurt Hennig.
Close. The stunt double for Tommy Gunn in that big fight with Stallone was Dirty Dick Slater.
Kurt Hennig, Dirty Dick Slater. Twins.
You know, if you look at it, like, you know, Tommy Gunn and Dick Slater, you know, you put Dick in the costume and maybe change his hair a little bit. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. So Terry Funk brings a lot of different things to the table, and he's someone that could help us, you know, who's not afraid to get the young guys over and do what he has to do to make sure promotions are successful, just like he did with ECW. So, you know, thumbs up with Terry Funk. The next guy on his roster, and we're going to introduce this term, because this is a term I heard recently. So this is a term that I heard recently, and it's referring to like late 80s, early 90s indies, and there's these guys that are called indie sleaze guys.
What?
Indie sleaze.
Indie sleaze, okay. And
they're just sleazy, slimy guys that, you know how to get heat. So we're going to bring in Rip Rodgers. So we're bringing Rip Rodgers to the AWA. Again, Rip's been everywhere from WCW to ICW. Right before this, he's in All Japan, and Rip brings again a sleaziness to him that maybe the AWA and the Midwest fans have not seen before. You know, obviously he's going to be lower on the card to start, and we'll see how it goes from there. But Rip Rodgers, again, great performer, good look. He gone on to be one of the foremost pro wrestler trainers that exist. He's hilarious on Twitter, unless you're in the audience.
Yeah, good follow on Twitter right there.
Yeah. He's yelled at me a couple of times, called me an idiot. So that's my claim to fame with Rip Rodgers. But he's someone that, hey, you know what? We can put him in matches with Owen and get him over, and we can put him with Jeff Jarrett, and they can tear in the house, and you know, because we want to build up our young guys for the upcoming year. Right. So Rip Rodgers is a guy that can do that for us. And another guy that would probably be the epitome of indie sleaze would be Al Madrill. So we're going to bring in Al Madrill.
That's right, baby. It's Fiesta Garden time. And I tell you what, I'm a little bit mad right now. I'm a little bit upset because Beetlejuice, you know you didn't beat me fair and square, and all you people out here saw that too. He had his feet on the ropes. But you know what? I've been told lately that these fans in Oregon are the greatest fans in the world, and that they don't lie, and that they tell the truth. So what I want to do now, baby, I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I want to bring some of you fans up here in the Fiesta Garden, and I want to interview you, and you people better tell me the truth. So you just hold on, and I'm going to bring somebody up here. Bring that guy up here. One at a time, please. Come here, boy. Oh, I can tell I don't like you already. What you got your face painted up for?
I don't know.
Speak up, boy, speak up.
I don't know.
You don't know why you have your face painted? You want to look like Beetlejuice, right? You like Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
What about the Latin lover?
I don't know.
You don't know? Well, do me a favor. If you want to be my friend, you go wash that face off, okay? Go wash it off right now. Get out of here. Come here, honey. What's your name, dear?
Tracy.
Tracy, look at that camera over there, and you tell me what you think about this new guy named Curtis Thompson.
Well, I think he's sort of a good wrestler.
He's sort of good? Is he as good as the grappler?
No.
No, not as good as a grappler. Honey, you can stay all night, but you got to leave, okay? Well, that's one for us, grappler. Okay, who's next? Oh, look at this cute. How you doing there, honey? I like your haircut. What's your name?
Patricia.
Patricia. What do you think about this new guy trying to be like the Latin lover, this Ricky Santana? Hey! What do you think about him, honey?
I think he's good.
You think he's good? You think he's better than me?
Yeah.
Yeah? Get out of here. What is, yeah? This is ridiculous. All right, bring me somebody. Hey, baby. What's your name, honey?
Angela.
Angela. You like the Latin lover, Angela?
I don't know. You're nice.
Tell the truth, baby.
I am.
Me or Ricky Santana?
Ricky Santana.
Get out of here. That's the kind of women you like, Santana. I know. Come here, honey. Oh, I know this girl loves the Latin lover here. Ow! How you doing there, baby?
Pretty good.
All right, you're pretty, huh? Real pretty. What are you doing later, baby?
Nothing with you, buddy.
What do you mean nothing with me? Then get out of here. I don't want to talk about you. I don't want to talk to no more of these fans or a bunch of you-know-what. But I want to tell you that Monday, we're going to be in Longview at the Armory then, and then we're going to be in the Dells on Wednesday. We're going to be in Salem on Thursday, and Friday we'll be in Eugene. And I'll tell you what, I gave you people of Oregon a chance, and it was gross. I'll never let you people on my Fiesta Garden again. Adios.
You just want to have Al's Fiesta Party.
I do, because I love that fucking segment. We see a lot of him in World Class. At this point, he's at Portland. And Fiesta Gardens, which was his interview show, it's hilarious. And Al's gimmick it's really, really simple, but it's very effective. Al's gimmick is that he hates children. And he hates kids. And if you want to get heat, it's like, you go up to a parent that has a little kid, and, we see MJF do this now. That's a great way to get heat, and that's what Madrill was doing back in the day. Solid enough worker. Again, another guy that can talk, because we want to bring in a lot of guys that have the ability to talk them into the seats. We want to have great action. We want to have bloody brawls. We want to have great talkers and guys that can do these like really personal, heated angles. So Al Madrill is another guy we're bringing into AWA. Another guy that may fit the bill for indie sleaze at the time. He's a young guy. You guys may have heard of him. We're going to bring in Scotty the Body, or at this point it would be Scott Anthony, the Palm Beach heartthrob, also known as Raven, to those who are not so inclined. At this point, Scotty is fantastic. Go back and watch the stuff in Portland.
That's where I first found him, yeah.
He's amazing. And even his lightweight run in WCW, that's pretty good too. Obviously, not so much in the WWF in his first run when he was Johnny Polo, but he was able to do commentary with Gorilla, which was really, really cool. We can do a lot of things with Scotty. Now, with Scotty, we're going to put him with Diamond Dallas Page, Bam Bigelow, JT Southern, and King Kong Bundy as a little stable, little group. And we have a couple of big guys in there. You want to have the small guy in there too to kind of round that out. And obviously, we're going to put Scotty with Owen Hart. We're going to put Scotty with Pegasus Kid. We're going to put Scotty with Jushin Liger, Octagon, and some of our lightweights. I like the term cruiserweight. So AWA is going to have a cruiserweight division. But these guys will really go back and forth. We can do an angle saying, he gained some weight. Now he's a heavyweight.
I understand that there's a special segment that we're going to have in our program tonight that involves you.
Yeah, it's a special segment. It's my own little segment. I'll be airing a little dirty laundry out here, because it just needs to be done.
What do you mean? What do you mean a little dirty laundry? Are we turning this thing into a laundromat or something?
Hey, you call it what you want, but there's some dirty laundry that needs to be aired out, and I think I can handle it here myself, Dave. You can beat it. In fact, wait a minute. There comes our first guest, and let me get a little chair for him. Look at this. I got you a custom-made chair here just for you. Take a seat, fella. Take a seat, big guy. Take a seat. I don't need a chair. I'm the host. You just listen to me, pal. This is, a lot of you realize that this is Scott Peterson, and I'll admit it, he's a fine athlete, not the caliber of the wrestling expert Scotty the Body, but a good wrestler in his own right. But what I really hate to see happen is, I really hate to see you get jerked around like what's happening to you, Scott.
Who's jerking me around?
You know who's jerking me, all right? Don't try and play games. You know who's jerking you around. Come on. Who is it?
I don't know. Who's jerking me around?
Well, let me ask you a question here. Let me ask you a question. Now, you guys were the tag team champions, you and Steve Barbie Doll, right?
Steve Doll.
Steve Doll, exactly. So you guys are the tag team champs, and you lost those tag team titles, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
And who got pinned? Who got pinned when you guys lost the title?
Well, Steve did, but we're a tag.
So Steve lost the tag team titles for your team. He lost your tag team title.
No, we're a team. We lost the belt.
Oh, you're a team. You both lost the belt. I see. Okay. Now let me ask you a question now. After you lost the titles, or both of you lost the titles, he went on to go into those 8-man elimination tags, didn't he?
That's right.
And what match did you wrestle in?
I wrestled in usually first or second match.
Oh, the first or second match! Now wait a minute. Isn't it obvious? Everybody knows that the main event, which is what Steve Doll was in, is a lot more money than first or second match, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Just sit down. It's not over yet. Have a seat, pal.
Hey.
Right here. Here's a little seat. Sit down. It's not over. Not going anywhere. Let's have a little chat, a little friendly chat here. Now, He won a lot of money in those things, didn't he? That's right. About, how much money would you say? He won about $10,000 from what I recall. I think he won about $20,000, but what I want to know is, what did you do with your $10,000, your half of the money? I didn't get any. That was his. Oh, wait a minute. You didn't get half the money? You're his partner? He loses the titles, and you don't get half the money? No, he was the only one in there. I wasn't in there with him. That doesn't seem fair to me. So you're relegated to working first match, making very little money compared to what he was making and all that money. Well, that was his match. He got picked. They drew names. Wait. They drew names out of a hat, didn't they? Yeah, that's right. And who put the names in the hat for the Southern Rockers? He did. Oh, he put both the names in? Yeah. Did you see him put your name in the hat? Yeah. You saw him. You were actually standing there when he put your name in the hat. Well, not actually standing right there, but I seen him take them. Oh, so you saw him take the names, but you didn't actually see him put them in the hat. I think my point is coming across quite well here. And I'd just like to thank my first guest here. I'd like to thank him for airing his dirty laundry, and so I'd like to give him a bit of my dirty laundry. There you go. Hey!
So, Matt, what are your thoughts on Scotty Flamingo, Johnny Polo, a.k.a. Raven?
I will say he's one of my early favorites, and when I was getting dirt sheets from Continental, the Ring Around the Northwest, Ring Post, what became the Pro Wrestling Torch, I followed the Northwest stuff and reading the recaps and some of the lines he used, because I wasn't quite in that level of getting tapes yet, but it was fun to watch. And as I went into Killer Kowalski school, he's one of the wrestlers I patterned myself kind of in the mold of. Although I always liked people telling me you're a handsome babyface, you ain't gonna be no bad guy. It's great. Thanks. My very first match, I was a heel. That's great. Anyways, I always liked his stuff, and I think one of the things about him as a performer that stands out is the evolution.
Yeah.
You see a lot of guys, and we talk about this in the game, there are guys that will use the same exact thing they started with, and nothing's changed, 5 years later. And I always go back to my stand-up days, and when I first started doing stand-up, get my feet wet, trying stuff, and then I went back 5 years later to some of the areas I'd been to before, and the same exact guys were doing the same exact set. And it's been 5 years, dude. You're still doing the same thing? Now, not to say you can't, be a professional and, get booked as a babyface rock and roll star or heel bad guy. And it works for you, you get booked, great. But when you see a performer not just change their gimmick, but evolve. Scotty the Body, Johnny Polo, Flamingo, into Raven, and what Raven became and how important he was to the success of ECW, and just a performer that was engaging and you invested yourself in. Fantastic catch if this is the case for AWA. To
he's so on trend during this time. He is so 1990. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So he's very current at this time. We look back and he may look silly, and I guess he has the neon colors. He has the denim jacket.
Yeah.
He has the cheesy dance moves, but he's doing it as a heel. He's so on trend, and that's what we're trying to do with the AWA. When we talk about the Battle at the Bay show, we can see how trendy baby faces get over and kind of your run-of-the-mill old dudes do not. Scotty is very interesting. Again, he can do a lot of different things. We can put him wherever we need on the card. We can put him in matches with Steamboat in the main event, and he can open up the show with Steve Simpson. You know what I mean? So he's very versatile and someone that we get him over. Again, we're getting these guys early, getting them ready, because by 1995, if you look at the talent that we have, Jeff Jarrett, Steve Austin, Cactus Jack, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Pegasus Kid. You add, Scott Anthony to that. And there's going to be more guys as we go through the process. Ahmed Johnson. By the time we hit 95, we're going to have this. We're going to have this core. We're going to have this core of this. We will have this core of youth that the WWF doesn't have, that WCW doesn't have, and it's really going to set us apart from everyone else. And lastly, I know I made reference to him before on another show, but we're going to bring in the Iceman, King Parsons.
Oh. Okay.
I love Iceman. Now, there's a lot of different things you can do with Iceman. So you can put him in a team with BrickHouse Brown if you really want to. You can have him feud if you really want to. You can have him feud with Jarrett. You can have him feud with Embry. You can have him feud with Austin. Iceman, again, is another guy that you can put in a lot of different roles because we've seen him do it. So all through the 80s, we saw will be in World Class or Global or elsewhere. Like Iceman King Parsons always in the mix, and he's someone that he brings a lot of versatility to the roster. He can be a fun baby face. He can be a nasty heel. He can be both at the same time.
Yeah.
So again, he's someone that middle of the card, upper mid card. If you turn him heel, get some heat on him, he can be in the main event, and he could draw. So Matt, what are your thoughts on Iceman King Parsons?
Well, the Blackbird, always a fun watch. I think you want to have a well-rounded roster, and I think one of the aspects that's kind of helping to shape this in a more successful way is you often see promotions go with like one or two stars and just kind of build around the top two stars. And the problem is you need depth. Injuries happen, travel problems happen, and if your whole entire show is 8 crappy matches and a good main event, okay. But what you do is by having such depth in the roster, you not only can you put on good shows, but long-term booking, you have a chance to escalate and demote, if you will. So some guys can go up the ladder, some can go down. And I think not enough is done about when someone loses, how do they handle that loss? Does it drive them to a new direction? Does it make them, I think I referenced in the last show, I always had a problem with the John Cena getting destroyed by Brock Lesnar and how Brock Lesnar just destroyed him, and all he did was take a few months off and come back, and it was the same old thing.
Yeah.
There was no journey. There was no montage of him running in the mountains of Russia with a log on his back, improving himself to get tougher, to beat, you could do a thing where you could have, the face loses, and instead of going out and training, he starts facing some really psychotic bad guys to get himself ready to face, like bring Abdul the Butcher in, like, oh my God, you crazy, but that's what he does to and there's things you can do. And again, someone like Parsons offers a lot of charisma and yet, some good heelism and works well with the crowd. And you want that because you don't want to have an audience that's going, well, who's this guy? Why am I watching this? Like every few minutes, like I was listening to a podcast the other day, they were talking about the Incredible Hulk and how at almost halfway through the show, he'd turn to the Hulk, and then almost at the end of the show, he'd turn to the Hulk, and you spread it out. Well, you don't want to have a show where you have 2 matches worth watching. You want to have a show where you have 8 to 10 matches that fans are going to be like, ooh, that'll be fun to watch.
What's funny about the AWA is I'm watching more and more on these shows. Since Heenan left, their heels had a hard time getting the right kind of heat. You had Colonel De Beers, but was he really getting the right kind of heat? Probably not. You had guys out there that were, DDP, was getting some heat, but not enough heat that would draw. So, they lost Heenan, their heels suffer, and we want to have guys that can generate heat. So, imagine a scenario, and again, I'm not using Vern on TV, but we can use this scenario where Iceman King Parsons get the Freebird hair cream, and he spreads it on Vern's head and gets rid of the last of his hair. You know what I mean? Oh my God, they start a riot over there.
Yeah,
it's not that particular angle, but angles like that. AWA needed, and they got a little bit. They needed an injection of Southern wrestling. They really desperately needed that. And we see later on the WWE go in that direction. I'll explain myself on that in a second. But, they tried. They worked with the CWA/USWA. They brought guys in. Lawler came up, and they did pretty good with that, and that fell apart. But if you're bringing in, you got to bring in heaters. You need a lot of heaters because AWA is, the way I equate the AWA through the 80s, it's the AWA is the WWF if Vince McMahon never took over.
Okay.
If you watch late 70s or early 80s WWF, AWA was the same as them. They're very similar. They're just they're twins almost, right? And WWF had this, all of a sudden, this left turn. And it felt like the AWA stepped on going in the same direction. So if you ever want to know what the WWF would have looked like if Vince McMahon didn't take over, maybe Gorilla Monsoon takes over, or Vince Sr. never sells to Vince Jr. and he lives another 10 years or so. It would have been very much like the AWA. I'm of the opinion like they need heaters. They need guys that can generate heat, potential riotous situations on our hands. You know, a lot more run-ins, a lot more backstage assaults, a lot more personal angles. Like on the show that we just watched, you had Larry Zbyszko and Greg Gagne, and they're in a heated feud, and they're just sitting there talking to each other, and not a punch was thrown. Like, they didn't get into a physical altercation, and I'm like, why? And when I say the WWF took a lot from Southern Wrestling as they evolved into the Attitude Era, I know a lot of people will credit ECW for some of the changes that WWF made during the Attitude Era, and you can see a little bit of the influence, but you want to see the real influence on WWF in the mid-90s, watch USWA from like 1989, 90, 91, 92, 93. Like, that stuff is proto-Attitude Era type stuff with the girls getting stripped and girls getting super kicked and all that kinds of crazy nonsense that they were doing.
Yeah.
You know, it evolved like, okay, ECW started doing that and then the WWF, but WWF needed to make that change in 1996, 97. Imagine what the product would have looked like if they would have just stuck with New Generation straight through.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the AWA never made that change. And that's where you get to the issues later on in the 80s with them. All right. So speaking of AWA Battle of the Bay. So AWA Battle by the Bay, June 28th, 1986. It was a live special carried live on ESPN. So they did have them. Because we were wondering if they actually, on a previous show, we were wondering if they could get live specials like this.
Right.
They drew 1,500 people in the convention center in Oakland, California. So on this card, I'm going to go through the card quickly, and then we'll go over match by match. We had two dark matches. So we had Colonel De Beers, who defeated Brad Rheingans. Larry Zbyszko and Scott LeDuc went to a double countout. So that must have been awesome.
Yeah, that was a barn burner.
So as the show starts, we get the shot of Larry Nelson and Lord James Blears and Stanley Blackburn and a bunch of fans outside the convention center.
Hello, I'm Larry Nelson, and right now I'm standing just outside the Kaiser Convention Center. Very soon, we'll be in there. Vern Gagne's AWA bringing the greatest wrestlers in the world here for a major league event. Right now, we're at a tailgate party, and I mean an event. It's a beautiful day. Are we having a good time? Yeah, absolutely. Right. Who'd you come here to see? The Bay Area, the home of Earthquake Ferris, the hometown favorite. Aunt Kathy, where are you? You're over there, Heidi. You came here to see Scott LeDuc. I know why.
Oh, yeah. No. I came to see my nephew.
Okay. Now we've got also here Lord James Blears and the president of the AWA. We've been getting a lot of letters, people wanting to know if you did exist. Stanley Blackburn is here. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much, Larry. You know, AWA has been in existence now for 35 years. I've been president of it for 26 years. And I think, and I know that we've got the greatest wrestling and the most ability in the wrestlers anywhere in the world. So if the AWA comes to your town or your area, make an effort to go see it. You'll get your money's worth.
Some of the great champions in the past, if you could reflect.
Oh, the Crusher.
They know.
Bashan, Bockwinkel, Martel, of course the great Vern Gagne, Stan Hansen, Harley Ray. I
don't think Ray held our belt, but of course out here in the Bay Area.
He was a tag team. He was a tag team champion. Ray was.
Okay. The future of the AWA looking bright and growing by leaps and bounds. You got to be a busy man.
I am busy, and AWA stays busy.
Let's talk about something very controversial here. That's the instant replay rule. They're trying to introduce it. Will it come to the AWA?
Absolutely not. If the referee doesn't see it, he can only call what he sees.
The words of Stanley Blackburn.
And right off the bat, this is the problem with the AWA. You have 1,000-year-old fucking Stanley Blackburn, you have 75-year-old James Blears, and you have Larry Nelson fucking, and he's all night, he's fucking drunk as hell. I swear he's drunk.
Yeah.
Because he's flubbing lines left and right, he's messing up people's names. He had a terrible night on ring announcing. So Larry kind of asked the crowd a couple of questions. He kind of just blows them off when he doesn't get the answers that he wants from them. And then he goes to Stanley Blackburn, and he's like, so Stanley Blackburn, what are some of the great AWA champions? And Stanley names off a couple and adds Harley Race. But Harley Race was never an AWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Oh, boy.
And even so, instead of just cutting it and then doing it again, so Larry corrects him, and he's like, I don't think Harley was world champion. And you have this awkward exchange, like, oh, yeah, that's right, he was a tag team champion. So you had this awkward exchange. Everyone's excited to see Earthquake Ferris because he is a local boy, and that gets us into our first match.
Welcome to the Henry J. Kaiser Convention Center. I'm Larry Nelson. This is AWA Championship Wrestling on ESPN. This first match is one fall. There is a 15-minute time limit. First of all, from Afghanistan, weighing in at 310 pounds, Ali Khan. Ali Khan, seconded by his manager, Chief Adnan LKC. His opponent from San Francisco, California, weighing in at 375 pounds, Earthquake Ferris. Your referee is Rich Fritz. Down to ringside to Ron Trongard and Lord James Blair.
So we have Earthquake Ferris who defeats Ali Khan. And I swear to God, Ali Khan did a good job doing everything he could to make sure that Earthquake Ferris looked good. Yeah. Unfortunately, Earthquake Ferris did not look good. If this is someone that you had aspirations for to being someone that could possibly carry your company in the future, or a top-level heel or main eventer, you would never put them on live TV, on cable, nationwide, in an opening match looking this bad. Like, if you really want him, like, obviously he needs to get experience. You put him in either a dark before the show, or you put him in a dark main event because he's from the area. You do not put him in the opening match of this card. That's insane. And Ali Khan did his best to try to bump for Ferris, and Ferris can't sell worth a damn. Ferris gets the win here with a power slam, and then Ali gets his heat back by, running his head into the pole post-match.
Yes.
So, Matt, what are your thoughts on this match?
I watched it cringing a lot. I think, one of the things you mentioned, this is a ESPN broadcast. And again, the AWA was just notorious for not thinking big picture. You'd want to have the women's title match or Bockwinkel versus Nord, or start with a six-man match. Where are you going with this, to get the fans right involved, get them engaged right away. And instead you get this rookie match. Now, this isn't a house show. This isn't a house show where you're going to have a few matches to warm the crowd up. You want to start hot and get the crowd into it.
In between these matches, Larry Nelson would conduct interviews, which, again, I thought was a mistake. Their interviews should have been pre-tapes that they inserted into the show because Larry was a mess. And especially when you're interviewing, I guess, celebrities. There were musicians that were doing a concert after their show. I guess it's a rock and wrestling type thing, right? So they're doing there's a bunch of guys I've never heard of on this show. The first people that they interview was 1,000-year-old Ray the Crippler Stevens, and I love Ray Stevens, but he's the quote-unquote matchmaker, and this other gentleman, I forget his name off the top of my head, he was the promoter for Oakland.
I'm standing here between a couple of legends in sports in the Bay Area. To my right, Leo Namalini, here now is the promoter for the AWA. And to my left, Ray Stevens, the matchmaker here for the AWA. Leo, college football All-American, a great career with the San Francisco 49ers, and you brought wrestling back to the top in the Bay Area.
Well, it's great being here, and it's great being in the Oakland area. And, of course, we want to generate more crowds as we go, and we're glad to see these people come out to see the real major league of professional wrestling.
Right here in the AWA. I hear Mama's a mean cook, too.
She sure is.
Okay. Great to have you here. Thanks for all you've done for the AWA and these great promotions, especially tonight.
Oh, we've got a tremendous card and a lot of people that are coming around. Like, for instance, we've got Ray in the matchmaker position, scouting the various groups all over the United States, and he's lining up some real fine talent.
You've done a tremendous job making matches tonight, all of them wall-to-wall main event.
Well, you know, we're going to try to bring the best. The AWA has the best wrestlers in the world, the real quality wrestlers, and we do wrestle all over the world, and we're going to make it as big as it ever was right here in the Bay Area. We feel great about coming here. The Bay Area is home to me anymore.
You, Pepper Gomez, used to be in this place, and now you're bringing in other talent just like that.
Well, I'm in a little different position right now. This is just about as tough a job as being a wrestler, just getting these matches made.
I'm sorry, Ray, we're out of time. Leo Namalini and Ray Stevens right here with us in the Bay Area.
And they're talking about we're bringing wrestling back to Oakland, and we're the major league of professional wrestling. And here's a tip for everyone. If you ever call yourself the major league of professional wrestling, there's a good chance that you are not, in fact, the major league of professional wrestling. Like, okay, obviously the number one promotion in the world in 1986 is the WWF. Under no circumstances have they ever called themselves the major league of professional wrestling. That sounds ridiculous. The way they always kind of put things, that they're the only professional wrestling in the world. Or the only sports entertainment group in the world. I like the fact that they would acknowledge other companies. I know that, you know, if you're a smart fan, you know there's other companies on it, but you don't need to throw it in your face, because you're like, if you're going to mention WWF or NWA or WCW on your TV show, then why am I watching your show? I was going to go watch their show because it's clearly better.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, But our next match, AWA World Women Title match, Sherry Martel taking on Candy Devine, your favorite. I thought Sherry was fantastic in this match.
Now, the question really here is, was this the first ever jazzercise match? Like, was that like a big thing? Like, were they all like? It
felt very fitness model like.
Aerobics championship.
Yeah, very 80s fitness model aerobic type gear. But that's what women wore back then. The match was long, longer than it probably should have been. They had a couple of fun spots, like Sherry head scissoring the referee by accident. I was mentioning to Matt that this match felt like a women's match that you would see on a movie or a sitcom or a TV show, just because the kind of the stickiness of this match. So Sherry Martel gets the win here via a roll up. She has her arm on the rope, so she goes over Candy, not clean. Candy protests for a little while, but the referee hands Sherry the belt, and she is seconded to the ring by one of our favorites, Playboy Buddy Rose. So
yes,
looking all the way live as he does. But I think for 86, this is a good women's. Like, this is one of the better women's matches that were out there in the United States at this time, 100% for sure. And Sherry's a fantastic heel. I think a lot of female wrestlers today should watch Sherry matches just to see how she interacts not only with the crowd, her opponent, and the referee. Like, she's getting heat all the time. So, Matt, what are your thoughts on Candy Devine taking on Sherry Martel for the AWA Women's title?
Well, I think again it was a fun match. Some interesting spots and change ups. And again, it goes to giving the crowd something different. And Buddy Rose being involved, the head scissors to the referee was a nice twist. No joke.
I'm surprised that wasn't a DQ.
Yeah,
it wasn't a DQ because it wasn't supposed to be. That wasn't the finish. That's
right.
The only reason why that wasn't a DQ.
Yeah, so I really think that the way her reactions are such over-exaggerated, but it's selling not quite like it's too far like the Shawn Michaels Hulk Hogan match, but it's showing or selling the moves and putting over the opponent. And I think that's something that people always forget about, is that part of the what you do is you build up your opponent, so if you beat them you look good. It's like not like, oh, fluke opponent, fluke win.
Yeah, man, 100% for sure. Again, we get more interviews at ringside, which again they're probably better off doing pre-tapes early in the day and inserting them into the show. Again, the production on this show is overall lame as hell. Again, this is an ESPN-produced show, and you can tell production values at ESPN in 1986 were the best.
Oh, I think we'll get to it later, but like my favorite part's in a little bit with Greg Gagne. So
yeah, it's wonderful.
With me right now, two of the Bay Area's better-known musicians. To my right, Frank Biner. To my left, Mick Jillette. Guys, great to have you here. And Frank, you're on right after the wrestling tonight.
All right, Larry, we know that. Wrestle Rock 86, all right.
Give me just a quick synopsis of your music, if you can. I know it's hard to do, but give me an idea. What's it all about?
Well, we play like a brand, I'd say rock and soul. A little bit of rock and roll, a little bit of soul, and a whole lot of feeling there, brother, I'm telling you. Play a little bit of that soul music, you know what I mean?
And that is going to be tonight right after the wrestling matches. Mick, you've been with the Stones, you've been with Huey, Tower of Power. What are you into now? What's the main thing for Mick Jillette?
I'm into Wrestle Rock. I dig the AWA. I'm a Ray Stevens fan since I was a little boy. And all the boys wrestling in there now, the Midnight Rockers, you know? We're here to kick some.
You're going to be up there with Frank tonight, right?
Oh, the Soul Patrol, the whole group is here. We got guys, Melvin Bishop's old band, the old Tower Power drummer. We got the baddest band in East Bay right now.
Frank Biner, Mick Jillette, they're on tonight, a part of it here in the Bay Area. We'll be right back.
Up next, we had the returning, I guess, Superfly Jimmy Snuka taking on 95-year-old Jay York. Jay York started competing in the 60s as part of the Alaskans. So he's been around for a very long time. So is Snuka. Snuka is past his prime here. He's a year removed from the WWF at this point. His star is on the decline, obviously. So they have this match. It's fine. It's not offensive in any way. The only thing that's probably wrong about this match is that we got no Superfly splash. Instead, we get that whole, like, the back, that's what he called the back body press.
Right.
Off on the top instead. So we get a body press off the top instead of the Superfly splash, which is disappointing. They do a little bit with Snuka. They don't really necessarily use Snuka. Again, he is a star on the decline. Make sure you guys watch Dark Side of the Ring featuring Jimmy Snuka coming up shortly. I believe it's next week.
Yeah. I'll tell you a fun story. First dirty magazine I ever bought was a Penthouse. Mm-hmm. I was 14, and I bought it because it was a story about the Von Erich, and it also had a big chunk of the story talking about Jimmy Snuka killing someone and getting away with it.
Yeah.
And that's why I bought the magazine, not because I was perv.
Yeah, right. You wanted to see Beaver.
That was exit one on a long road trip.
How do you feel about Snuka overall? Like, to me, it's like he's in the same category as Benoit for sure. I'm not as cringy with his matches as I am with Benoit because I just like Benoit better. So I was a bigger Benoit fan than Superfly.
Sure.
But I can see people having the same reaction about Jimmy that they do with Chris, and I'm curious to see that episode because unlike the Benoit situation, there's always been allegations of Vince actually covering this up and bribing people allegedly to get this covered up. And you notice that once the heat got on him, like, oh, we took Snuka out of this WrestleMania 1 main event. Because he was supposed to be in the main event. It was supposed to be a 6-man. And then they changed it, took Orton out of it, and they took out Jimmy. But Jimmy was able to go to the ring, and they don't use Jimmy that much after this.
Yeah.
So that Piper feud was his last feud for a while until he comes back in '89.
I think Snuka was, he was hot with the Morocco thing and the Backlund thing and then the Piper thing.
He was hot for a while. He was probably like the #1 wrestler in the world in terms of popularity for a minute. He had great runs in Georgia. He had great runs in Portland. My favorite Jimmy Snuka is Terry Gordy tag team partner Jimmy Snuka with the cowboy hat. Because to me, Jimmy Snuka wearing a cowboy hat is hilarious.
Yep.
So I always find that amusing. But the Morocco thing was fantastic, and him jumping off the cage on Backlund. He was the hottest guy in the country for a while, and then
in the ring and to my right, from Beverly Hills, California, weighing in at 247 pounds, Mick Bockwinkel. His opponent, brought to the ring by his manager, Sheik Adnan LKC, and accompanied by his tag team partner, Boris Zukov. He weighs in at 318 pounds. He is Nord the Barbarian.
Next up, we have babyface Nick Bockwinkel taking on Nord the Barbarian with Adnan Al-Kasey, as Larry Nelson would say. It's Al-Kasey, but he says Kasey. It's weird. Again, Larry Nelson is a funny dude. And Boris Zukov's out there, too, so good for Boris. Man, Boris has a big head. Do you remember who Boris was before he was Boris?
Before? No.
He was Private Jim Nelson, part of the Cobra Corps with Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh my God, that's a little turnaround.
Yeah, for sure. So clearly, John Nord is highly influenced by Bruiser Brody.
Yes.
It's funny because Brody's around at this time frame too.
I was gonna say, I was wondering when I was watching that, like, is Brody dead yet?
No, because they mention him like when they go through the cards. Like the upcoming AWA events, and they mention King Kong Brody constantly on those. Not on this show for whatever reason. It's clearly not in Japan because Stan would be in Japan at the same time.
Right.
So I don't know where Brody is at this point. Maybe in St. Louis or something, or in Dallas. But he's around. Obviously, we have the Bruiser Brody crew. So there's a Bruiser Brody crew of guys that spent time with them and were highly influenced them. Northern the Barbarian being one of them, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and The Undertaker were all guys that spent quite a bit of time around Bruiser Brody. So I guess the interesting thing about this show here is the fact that Nick Bockwinkel is in the middle of the card, but he probably should be since he's literally on his last legs in terms of his career.
52 years old, whatever it is.
He is not a young man by any stretch of the imagination. But he had good fire as a babyface. He looked good.
Well, I will say this, though. The thing with Nick Bockwinkel, and this goes back to my whole thing about, like, you see pictures of, like, your grandparents from, like, the 60s and 70s. They look the same like they did when they were older. You know, they looked old. And Nick Bockwinkel looks like an old dude from the 60s. He just, you know, those damn hippies, like, you know. And
I'll tell you this, though. I have a controversial opinion.
Controversy. Let's hear it.
If Nick Bockwinkel came around 10 years later, he would be on the same level as Flair.
I can see that.
Because he's really good. Like, he is stupid good. Great promo, same kind of act as Flair with the suits and the way he talks and the way he's smarter than everyone else. And he's rich and he's from Beverly Hills and that kind of stuff. I think he came around a little bit later. He would probably be at least as revered mainstream-wise as much as Flair. I would have loved to see a Flair Bockwinkel match.
Never happened?
They probably did, but not that I've ever seen. And I have a lot of wrestling footage. I think I would have ran into that by now.
Right.
But, you know, if anyone knows if there's ever been a Flair Bockwinkel match on tape somewhere, I would love to see it. What are your thoughts on General Adnan? I call him General Adnan, but Adnan Al-Qassai as a man. He's legitimately Iraqi, by the way. So
yeah. Does
it make it less stereotypical of him being a Sheik? He went to school with Saddam Hussein and the whole nine.
Jeez. Well, I didn't know that.
They're childhood friends.
I will say this. I think to a certain point, if you're going to go with certain stereotypes and a guy's from there and he knows how to play it, that's fine. You know, that's fine. But at a certain point, I always talk about not wedging your character into one. Like, if your character's called the Giant Baby Killer, tough to get that guy over as a face. I was thinking the other day, I was watching some AWA just to kind of refresh my memory. I forgot about the good guy Nazi. We don't get enough good guy Nazi. Baron von Raschke. Like, oh man, Baron von, he's a Nazi. Oh, he's still goose-stepping. Oh, he's doing the salute with his claw hand. All right, well, thanks for playing. Like, it's just time travel. Like, I just think that, you know, it's one of those things that when they see alliances in wrestling or, like, you know, comic books where it's like Taskmaster and Doctor Doom are going to team up with Captain America. What? You know, like, okay. But it comes out.
Even more curious about than Baron? Fritz von Erich.
Yes.
How did he become a baby face?
Found Jesus. I don't know.
Well, they were on the Christian Broadcasting Network, so.
They'll do it.
Do you know what General Adnan's gimmick was before?
Before? Let me see if I can guess. He wasn't Sergeant Slaughter's other private, was he?
No.
I'll say he was George the Jungle.
He was Billy White Wolf, a Native American gimmick.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he was like in WWF way back in the day and some other places. But yeah, General Adnan. So let's talk about your favorite part of this show is the Larry Zbyszko, Greg Gagne confrontation.
Quote, confrontation.
So, man, what's the deal with this?
It was so intense. It reminded me of that moment from Avengers Endgame when Cap's going like one-on-one with Thanos. Yeah. It was that kind of intensity, except the exact opposite. I was watching this going, oh, you know, I haven't seen this. I'm waiting for like something like, you know, a slap and a pull apart. Not only was that not a thing that happened, but they then went to a highlight reel with terrible 80s special effects that were the same you'd see like at the local high school AV club. And one thing, it's a small thing, but like if Greg's going to be your big star, put his name in big print. Like it was like, tap, get it in there. And then I'm watching the highlight reel, and I'm watching him mangle people with knee drops, do drop kicks to people's stomachs. Like, I thought Greg had a good drop kick. I mean, it wasn't Jim Brunzell I was confusing him with. But
he was a high flyer now.
In name only. It's just watching some of it, and I was like, oh my God. And just having Van Halen's jump in the background was so like, oh man, this belongs in Continental, but they wouldn't have shown it. It's just like terrible. And I was trying to think, like, is he the worst performing? Well, actually, I shouldn't say that, because I think the worst performing second generation guy or like next generation was probably Eric Watts.
Watts is up there,
but it might be wrong.
Watts could have been good, and we'll talk about that. So you have a couple names here that we can banty about. Eric Watts.
Yes.
George Goulas.
George Goulas.
He was tag team partner with Bobby Eaton. They were the Jet Set.
Okay.
So Nick Goulas was his dad. He was the promoter of Memphis before Jerry Jarrett took over. David Sammartino.
Yeah.
David Flair.
Yep.
Scott Pusky.
Mike Von Erich.
Mike Von Erich.
Yeah.
Chris Von Erich.
I still make the argument. I think Chris Von Erich, if he had given them time and figured out like how to like become a cruiserweight guy, and they could have played that up, it could have been a different story. But that film had problems anyway, so it may have been beyond that anyways.
So like there's been a bunch of second generation guys who didn't pan out. Tiger Ali Singh is another one. Didn't necessarily pan out. So there's been a bunch. I think probably Eric Watts and David Sammartino are probably your biggest examples. The thing is, David could actually work a little bit. Watts, fantastic athlete, college quarterback. The problem with Watts is that they put him in that position too early, where he should have been in Portland or something, or in Memphis for a while.
Yep.
And then the other problem with that is that everyone knew his dad, because his dad's on fucking TV all the fucking time as the authority figure, and his son is there. So obviously the fans are going to turn against him, thinking he's going to get an unfair advantage. So the way to remedy that is to turn him heel and have him turn on Bill Watts.
Yeah.
And maybe have him hang out with Arn Anderson and Barry Windham and shit until they got good. People will throw Dustin Rhodes in there. I don't agree. I think he was really good, really cool.
What? Dustin Rhodes? He wasn't bad.
Yeah, if you read a lot of the sheets from that time frame, they always claim that Dustin got an unfair push because of who his father was, but that's not necessarily the case if you really look at it.
I will tell you, I was not, as a kid, a fan of Dusty Rhodes. I was a Horseman guy, all that stuff, right? But I always felt that Dustin handled himself pretty adamantly. He was good.
Like, it was lame when he was doing, like, the fake Dusty Rhodes promos for a while.
Yeah.
He stopped doing that pretty early, though. But again, he's a guy that, he think we started in 88, 89. You know what I mean? So he came along very quickly. And he did work for his dad in Florida. He did work in Memphis for a little bit. And he did do tours in Japan before he got on WCW TV like that. Eric had less experience going in than Dustin did when he started. Oh, I want to mention, so in this confrontation, and I thought this was very interesting, that Larry would tell Greg that he couldn't live up to his father's legacy, which I thought was funny. And then Greg counters with that. He says, "Oh, you can never live up to your mentor, Bruno Sammartino." That's awesome. And then like Larry, there's like, "No, I'm better than him."
Yeah.
I like Larry's hair on this show, by the way. Larry's hair is fantastic. Like, it's really 1986. Larry Zbyszko hair. All right, guys. So we're gonna end the conversation here. This show was too big for one episode. We'll continue the discussion on the next AWA 1990 project. For Matt Riley, I'm Alex G. Have a good night.
I'm gonna be in that last match with that great big fat stinking Crusher Blackwell. That's right. You made a big mistake, Jerry Blackwell. Taking a match with King Kong Brody with no referee in the ring. You're not only big and fat, you're real stupid. You're real stupid. There's going to be a referee at ringside. He's going to be sitting on the floor. And the only time he's going to get out of that chair is when your big fat shoulders are flat on that mat. He's going to get up one time during that whole match. Just one time he's going to get up. And that's to count you out. In between the time he gets up and the time that match starts, I'm going to find me something. I'm going to find me something. Something that ain't hooked to the floor. And I'm going to bring it in that ring. And I'm going to finish what I started 3 weeks ago. I'm going to finish it. I'm going to find me something, and I'm going to beat you with it, and I'm going to beat you with it,
and I'm gonna beat you with it. And we're gonna finish this thing once and for all. That's all.